Broadcasting from the 88.3 WXUT studio, this is your Saturday morning weekly news update. It's 7:45 in the morning, and today is November 5th. We are in for a rainy day today, with a high of 71 and a low of 47. Today's show is a midterm election special. These stories were researched and reported by the student journalists at UT 10 News. My name is Krystal Clark. Let's begin. With Election Day nearing, both the Democrat and Republican parties are trying to gain last-minute voters. Both parties have different approaches and different topics at the top of their priority list. Nancy Larson has been knocking on doors for months. Candidate for the Democratic Party for State Representative District 41, she's in the final push for getting supporters.
This last week or two has been focused on getting out, knocking on doors, talking to people.
Her key message, one of urgency.
These are really, really scary times. I am old. I have lived through a lot of election cycles. It is not Chicken Little to say that the sky is about ready to fall on our democracy.
Her campaign focuses on cleaning Lake Erie, among other widespread issues.
They're seen as fringe issues, abortion rights, gun safety measures, but they are getting more top of mind for people.
So while one party is knocking on doors, the other party is focusing on social media to get voters out early.
We're also doing a lot of text messaging work to try and get people to vote. We hold meetings all the time encouraging people to come and vote.
The Lucas County Republican Party believes its hard work is paying off.
Our early voting center, it appears that the voter turnout has been higher.
The GOP's focus is on issues that affect people's pockets directly.
So I think inflation is a huge one. I think the other one is people want to also be safe. They don't want to feel like when they go outside they're going to have a problem, and that's why this notion of defunding the police is so outrageously ridiculous.
Joseph says the biggest thing is to get out and vote.
You can't effectuate change unless you go to the ballot box. You can't expect change to occur unless you go to the ballot box.
Both parties want to emphasize that early voting is open now. The two parties are also wanting to push for the younger demographics to get out there and vote. UT 10's Belle Fahey took to campus to see where the students are feeling the heat.
As October wraps up, it is only the beginning of November election season. On campus, students are making room in their schedules to vote or skip the polls entirely.
Do you have any plans to be voting for the midterm election?
No, I don't vote.
Honestly, my mom just asked me if I wanted to go there or get an absentee, and I was like, I'll just get an absentee because it's easier.
I've actually already filled out my absentee ballot, and it's already in the mail.
According to circle.tufts.edu, youth voter turnout increased in every state back in 2018. With many topics on the ballot, many students had a lot to say.
It's really important to be mindful of who is for and against Roe v. Wade.
Checking the status of voter registration is easier than ever, with many websites advertising their resources.
A quick Google search asking, "Am I registered to vote?" on your phone or laptop is just enough to get you to pages like your local Secretary of State website. Adding just your name, date of birth, driver's license, and a few other key information about yourself, you can find out if you're able to vote for this election.
A common theme? Students suggest reading up on topics on the ballot before voting.
Every vote matters. I think if everyone thinks their vote doesn't matter, then nothing will ever get done.
But if you can vote, you should. I just personally believe that, me personally, I want to do more research to make sure that my vote, what I believe or what I stand for, I'm voting for that.
Keeping on campus, UT 10's Grace Powell discovered that there are a series of organisations at UT for those wanting to talk politics. This week on the new segment, Rocket Resources.
Whether students stand on one side or the other of the political spectrum, somewhere in between, or if they're not sure, there's multiple organizations on campus available to discuss your values and beliefs this election cycle.
I think that everyone should be able to have their views and express them openly, and they should all be respected.
There are 22 different political and advocacy student organizations listed on InvoNet, UToledo's involvement network. They all have different beliefs and areas of focus. These groups include Young Americans for Freedom,
We're a nonpartisan conservative organization, and we're mainly here to advocate for different conservative policies, so limited government and mainly free speech on college campuses.
And Ohio Student Association.
So we're a multiracial grassroots organization. We focus on student advocating and voting.
What are the most important issues in this election? That depends on who you ask.
With the overturning of Roe v. Wade, that's obviously a really big topic for us because we see the value in reproductive rights and justice.
Well, I think the main thing is inflation. That is something that affects all of our daily lives.
But they all agree that what's really important is starting the conversation. At the University of Toledo, I'm Grace Powell, UT 10 News.
Now, let's take a look at the big issues facing voters across America. Michigan, Kentucky, California, and Vermont are voting to safeguard abortion. However, Montana residents will vote on the Born Alive law, which would require medical care to be provided to infants born alive after failed abortions. According to the Associated Press, reporters say the proposal is meant to prevent the killing of infants after failed abortions, which is already illegal. Next, South Dakota, North Dakota, Arkansas, Missouri, and Maryland are all voting on the legalization of recreational marijuana. Being highlighted as well are plans to erase past marijuana-related convictions for non-violent offenders, but this does not include those convicted for selling to minors or for driving while high. And this one may surprise you. More than 150 years after slaves were freed in the US, voters in Alabama, Louisiana, Oregon, Vermont, and Tennessee will soon decide whether to close loopholes that lead to forced labor for convicts. According to the AP, nearly 20 state constitutions include language permitting slavery and involuntary servitude as criminal punishments. In recent years, Colorado, Nebraska, and Utah voted to remove the language from their founding frameworks. This next proposal likely stems from government restrictions on churches during the height of the pandemic. Arkansas is voting on the Arkansas Religious Freedom Amendment to protect religious practices. The law would amend the state constitution to provide that the government shall not burden a person's freedom of religion. Opponents worry that this could excuse actions negatively impacting public health and safety, like gathering during a pandemic, and they say it could promote bigotry and discrimination. One state wants to go beyond the Second Amendment's current protections for gun owners, while another seeks to strengthen gun restrictions. Iowa voters will decide on adding the right to keep and bear arms to their state constitution. However, Oregon voters could strengthen gun restrictions with changes to firearm ownership laws. The Oregon initiative also prohibits the possession of ammunition magazines capable of holding more than 10 rounds. And finally, California is voting on a proposition that would require funding for K-12 art and music education in schools. Now it's time for the UT 10 Sports Report. To kick things off, UT 10 Zeke Fravor made his way downtown to discuss hockey with the Toledo Walleye ahead of their first game of the season.
Last season, the Toledo Walleye made a playoff run, only rivaled by the 2018-19 season. Both seasons ended in heartbreak fashion, with the Walleye losing in the Kelly Cup Finals.
As long as you're giving yourselves an opportunity and trying to knock on that door, at some point it's going to happen. With that said, that it was just very, very disappointing last year.
The team returns 10 players from last year's Western Conference Championship team, including fan favorites Mitchell Hurd, Brandon Hawkins, and Cole Frazier.
There's a lot of guys that are here because they love the atmosphere, they love the Huntington Center. Obviously, yes, they love the success that we've had, but a lot of it is due to where you play.
There are also a few players with ties to Northwest Ohio. Defenseman Gordy Meyer played at Sylvania Northview High School, while brothers Sam and Lucas Craggs played college hockey down I-75 at Bowling Green State University.
Though the Walleye are affiliated with the NHL's Detroit Red Wings and the AHL's Grand Rapids Griffins, last season they weren't loaned many players due to COVID-19. This year, that shouldn't be the case.
So far this season, the Walleye have been loaned defenseman Seth Barton, goaltender Victor Bratstrom, and Sebastian Kosa, a goaltender the Red Wings selected with the 15th overall pick in the 2021 NHL Draft.
we do have an ongoing dialogue and communication with Grand Rapids on what they're looking for. What's the role when that player is going to get called back up. So we want to make sure that we're fine-tuning that.
Toledo fans, widely considered some of the wildest in the league, won't have to wait much longer to see the team in action.
We call them the seventh man for a reason. It does. The energy that's created on the bench from the fans, the players can feel it.
Now it's time for UT10's Athlete of the Week. Jaman McKinney spoke with two former student athletes whose new journey caused quite a scene in the Glass Bowl.
The Glass Bowl is a fun place to be, especially when Rocket fans are filled with energy and excitement as touchdowns are scored. But for Laura Burris and Brad Smith, it will always be known as the place they solidified their love for each other and their future together on October 15, 2022.
Some rings make for a scrumptious sugar rush. Meanwhile, others are meant to be cherished forever.
We kind of had a general idea of what we wanted, but I had it customized, a little bit of flair to it. I really wanted to exemplify the main stone because to me, you know, a diamond is the hardest material and it's unbreakable, like our love for each other.
My family knew, but none of my friends knew. And this was really special because I had no idea they were in the stands the whole game. He pointed up in the stands and I just lost it, and that's actually when I started crying.
While being student athletes at the University of Toledo initially brought them together, the bond and common interests Brad and Laura share have truly led to their planned marriage.
You know, our families were very, very important to us. God was very important to us, and so we bonded over that a lot.
The Glass Bowl, even before the proposal, meant so much to me. Like, this is where I created some of my best memories in college, found some of my best friends, and discovered who I am as a person and an athlete. Now that I can say that I got engaged to my best friend in the Glass Bowl, it's number one.
And that's it for this week. Thank you for joining us today. To keep up to date with what's happening in the community, listen to the weekly news update every Saturday at 7:45 a.m. You can also catch UT10 News live every Thursday at noon. For 88.3 FM WXUT, I'm Krystal Clark. Have a great day.